Where are you from in Argentina,
Okay,
Melissa?
we are live.
Ah, okay.
Okay. A very good evening, everyone. Tell Me Your Story welcomes all of you to yet another episode of Poetry with Antara and Deyasini. The topic of today's evening is Where Can You Find the Stars? Representing self-reliance and resourcefulness, a project under Voices and Verses. We are honored to present our esteemed guests who will recite their poems today evening. They are Dr. Titi Ronan and Melissa Mourinho. We are also calling for submissions of poems on the same theme. Where can you find the stars? Registrations are also open for the writing program season 4. For further details, please visit www.tellmeyourstory.biz. So let me introduce to our esteemed panelists for today evening. Dr. D.T. Ronan is a poet, a poetry editor, a translator of poetry, and an academic scholar, a former lecturer in the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, and the former head of the literature, theater, and cultural policy departments in the Israeli Ministry of Culture. Born in Tel Aviv, Israel, Ronen has published 11 full-length poetry books in Hebrew, English, German, French, Georgian, and Romanian. Ronen's poetry was awarded numerous international and national poetry awards, prizes of honors, poetry residencies, and scholarships. She is regularly invited to publish and to perform her poetry in central stages worldwide. We welcome you, Diti. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure and honor to have you here.
Good evening to everyone.
Thank you, thank you. Next, we have with us Melissa Mourinho. She's an Argentine poet and writer. She has a bachelor degree in psychology from Buenos Aires University and is a former resident of clinical psychology and palliative care. She currently continues her private practice as a psychoanalyst and teaches Spanish as a foreign language online. She has published the collections of poems like The Skin of the Caterpillar, The Black Dahlia, and other criminal poems. The Joke, Tribute to Joker, The Belly of the Wolf, and her first novel, Nymphet. So, Melissa, we are really, it's an honor to have you here today with us, and thank you for joining us in today's session.
Thank you so much for inviting me. And hello, everyone. I'm not sure if to say good evening, good morning, because there's such a big time difference. So,
Yes.
plain hello.
Okay, no problem, Melissa. And we welcome both of you. So now we straight away go on to our poetry sessions. So please, I will invite Diti first to read your poems on today's theme, which is Where Can You Find the Stars, representing self-reliance and resourcefulness. Diti, please go ahead with your poems.
Thank you very much. So, the first poem I'm going to read uh, is Birthmarks. And I think that once I read the poem, you realize where I find my stars, or at least some of them. Birthmarks. I was born in a place called homeland. I was born in a language called mother tongue. Then I grew up, switched places and languages, always carrying with me my homeland and my mother tongue. It took me years to understand. It is not me who carries them. It is them who carry me.
It's a wonderful expression of where you can find stars. It's wonderful, Diti. And
Yeah.
anything you want to say about your poem? Like, what made you write this poem? Like, something
Um,
you want to share about this poem?
I think I really realized there was a moment when I realized um, that the Hebrew language, which is the oldest language still in use today, the oldest language in the world that is still in use, and I realized, and it is a very, very deep language, very, very deep language. It goes more than 5,000 years ago backward, and on the other hand, like when you translate from Hebrew to English, for example, it's much like if you have a one page of Hebrew and you want to translate into English, it will be 1.5 pages. So it's a very shrinked language, but the layers of every word is the layers are very deep and tremendously wide. So it all has to do with the context of when you use it and how you use it. Very interesting language. And and my homeland, which is Israel, I'm Jewish, and this is my identity. And I realized there was a moment when I realized that I don't carry my identity everywhere I go. It is my identity that carries me, my language, my home, my 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 Jewishness, my the community that I belong to. And it was like a revelation for me when I realized that it is part of what builds me. And as you say, this is where the stars uh, shine, and this is where I collect my energy from.
Okay, Diti. That was
So that
wonderful.
is
And
one thing. This is not the academic. It's not an academic session, so I'm not going to go deeper than that. I think I have more to say about where do you find your stars, but I'll go on to the second poem, which
yes, Diti,
is
we will come to that. But before
ah
that, please read. Hmm.
okay. So you want me to
No, no,
read
please
this?
continue. Continue with the second poem, as you said.
Okay, one breast in a blue ink in front of the mirror. I mark the contours of the butchering of my mother's former breast. The line goes up, curls, and drops helpless into the hole of the armpit. Now the diagonal, but it is not possible to move the hand. I pass the wounds of the missing breast in soft, well kissed bandages and place them gently one by one to soothe your pain and to cover myself from the butcher. Mummy, perhaps, just to be sure, let's go quietly tonight and bury the butchered breast deep in the ground and trample and stamp our feet and beat and hit me and you and spit 3 times to each wind and spin knives in the air and pin and mumble palms up and pray and sing, and then we'll rise, wash our hands, and again spit 3 times to each wind and leave. And at home, we'll tightly close our eyes, cross our fingers, count 10 years, hold our breath, and wait.
Very
Do you
powerful.
want to share something about this poem, Diti?
Well, as it says, I wrote it after my mother had to separate from her breast. First, the first one, and then and I think regarding the subject of this session, um, what I really want to say is the deep connection that we have, the empathy, the sympathy, and the the deep feelings that we have towards our family members, mother, father, now my children, now also my grandchildren, and these are the things that these are the persons that curdle me, that gives me that, like I get all my energy, not all, but like a lot of my energy I get from these sources of communication, communicating the people that I love, and that gave birth to me, and I gave birth to them. And these people are the nearest people, and they are, in many meanings, they are the stars.
Okay. That was so nice. Very sweet explanation, of course. Now coming to Melissa. Melissa, please, you go ahead with your poems.
I'm still overwhelmed with what I've just heard. Thank you.
Thank
It
you.
was very touching.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll take a breath and go to my stuff now.
Yeah, please relax.
um, okay, I will read the first poem. Um, Obviously, my poems are originally, I mean, these poems are at least written originally in Spanish. Um, so these are translations. I wanna thank Charles, a friend who helped me review the translations a little bit just to make sure they they would be uh, clear. So this poem is called "I Have a Man Asleep in My Left Ventricle," and it belongs to the book I'm preparing, my next poetry collection that I'm hoping to publish at the beginning of uh, next year. I have a man asleep in my left ventricle. I caress him with my voice in gentle decibels. The kiss of the tool over my shoulder, the foam that climbs the dunes as if stumbling, with such delicacy as his lips, drunk from my cup, or my fingers, running over his features when I close my eyes. The noise of a star falling among the flowers in a garden that I can take care of because it isn't my own. I soothe him in my chest so he won't wake up nor go away, leaving me in complete silence. We stand under the same storm, ignoring that we are two within this full night that outspreads beyond its outfall in outer space, where a swarm of stars threatens to fall on top of us. I can hear them drumming millions of light years from our depth, and those star beats shape bridges for my blood to cross until I reach him, careful never to wake him from his slumber of man who sleeps in my left ventricle.
So nice. Excellent. So, you have something to share about this poem, like
Yeah.
if you want to share, Melissa.
Sure. Well, when I thought of the theme, like where can we find the stars? Where can we find the stars? Um, it's an open theme because it can lead you to think of many different things. We've seen it with what Diti has just presented. It can take you to so many different places. It's so personal, right? Like where can you find stars? In this case, I think this poem is related to the loss, to a mourning process when you lose someone, and you cannot really let that person, um, or whatever it is, it could be something else, not just a person. It could be an idea, it could be a dream, it could be an animal. Um, when it's so hard to let them go, and you need to sort of keep them inside of you, a part of them at least. But in this poem, it's like it's hard to let that one go, to move on to something different, to something better. So I feel like um, the let's say the main character in this poem keeps this man in her heart, in her left ventricle, and she's like uh, taking care of him or singing to him or keeping him asleep in there so that he won't go, and not seeing that it's time for him to go and move to something else. And that's something very common, like it happens quite often. So I think the stars in this poem kind of represent all those losses, all those ones who are um, gone or dead. And we tend to look at the sky and watch the stars and think of those spirits and think of those who are no longer there. And I think they could they could take us to this feeling of feeling protected, of feeling watched somehow, which would be like comforting in a way. Or they could make us feel like it's um it's a threat then of these stars falling on us at any time. And well, that's more or less what I think I was trying to express in this poem.
That was excellent, Melissa. Yes, it's pretty much
And
understood, you know. So
yeah,
that is the
I apologize if I cannot be so precise. English is not my mother language,
no,
so
no.
it's
You
not
are
easy to
completely.
find the words sometimes.
It's clear. It's understood. You know, it's fine, Melissa. So now I will invite you to read your second poem.
Okay. My second poem is from another book that hasn't been published yet, and it's called Irusha, which is it's a city in, or more like a town in the north of Argentina, in the province of Jujuy, and it's a very magical place. It's a very special place. Um, it's like a stone town, all made of stone, and it's really hard to explain. But you go in there, and it's like you're inside a stone uh, town. Like there are no cars. It's very different to anything I had seen before I was there. And there's this special feature of this place that you can see the stars, like millions of them. I live in a city, so I don't see so many stars normally, just a bunch of them in the sky. And when I was there, it was really like, wow, like so many stars. So if you can ever visit Irusha, I would totally recommend it because it's a magical experience.
It falls in which part of Buenos Aires?
No, it's not in Buenos Aires. It's in the north of Argentina. Argentina is a
Okay,
very big country, so
obviously.
it's
Huge.
yeah, it's huge.
Huge. It's
It's huge. So it's in the north. It's in a
north
province
of Argentina.
called Jujuy, and it's close to Bolivia, the north of Argentina. So you get an idea in the map. Um, so Irusha, it's another moon. It's just as if nobody lived here, as if we were alone with ourselves and all those who have left us, without saying goodbye, or perhaps they did, because arrivals, departures, what has what had always been veiled in the absence becomes indistinguishable. A sunset fading, its red ghost coming back slowly. Being far away, we too miss each other, believing that it's called love or willpower. There's nothing to do but to find your own. Be lonely, with the sound of your heart pumping, a sack of bones, asking to be opened, alone, with the soil and its indomitable, colored voices. Irusha is a city where I couldn't find you, and so you came along, like a splinter in carved wood. You won't speak a language willing to accommodate your deafness. You must open the stone and listen towards breakage commands. Going down the slope towards the entrance, we were carrying the light. Irusha sounds like a river, its apparent meekness. The retreating sun is a bare silence, the precise moment when its everlasting change freezes, and the stars, quickly, a fishing net, catching us from above. Thank you.
So wonderful rendition, Melissa. That was so nice. And it
Thank
was very, very, your thoughts were seriously so nicely reflected in the poem, Virusha. So now the bright, dazzling stars have come to represent, different things throughout our history. But the most recognized image when we close our eyes and imagine the image of a star, it is a symbol of excellence. And in a way, they are the ultimate representation of self reliance and resourcefulness. Of course, self reliance is a trusting on abilities to get through the challenges of life on the back of our own resourcefulness. Though it varies, from person to person, but the term self reliance, it has vast implications because being self reliant allows to survive the harshest of winters and even the brutal of summers. So, now if I ask you, Diti, what would be your interpretation of stars in association with self reliance and resourcefulness?
So I've read these two poems that really manifest stars that are outside me, like family or my identity, which are things that I belong to, and you can point at, and they are like outward me, and they fulfill me. But when I think about uh, stars and self-reliance, um, I know that I have to find the stars in me. Uh, they're not outside.
They are within.
They are inside me. And if I want something, if I wish for something, if there is something that I wish, it has to be already in me. And only then I can follow it, because I can obtain it only when I already realized it, when I already gave it the light and the interpretation and the power to lead me. But it has to be inside me. It has to be conquered by me. It's not outside, it's inside. It's all shining inside me. And only by following these little shines that I have inside me, I can go on. I can proceed. I can fulfill my wishes. It's not something that is high above. Like there are these stars high above in the stars in the sky. Yes, they are the symbol, but I can't follow them. I have to follow the stars that I have to uh, grow, or to grow up in my own mind, in my own self. Only then I can really have this feeling of self-reliance, of doing what I really want, go where I really want. It's something that is totally inside me.
Okay. And coming to Melissa, what would be your interpretations of stars in association with self-reliance and resourcefulness?
Yeah, I must say that I agree with DT. I think um, there are different stars, right? When I was thinking about the question, um, this question specifically, I was wondering which stars are we really talking about, right? Because even the stars, as Diti said, the stars that we see, the stars in the sky, like they're so far away and they're so shiny, and they make us think of so many things. They're not even the stars that they actually are. It's like there is a symbolic process in between, because everything we see, everything we think is immersed in language. So those aren't even the stars they actually are. It's what we see, what we interpretate of those shiny points in the sky. So I think humans have always been puzzled and fascinated by those uh, shiny points, let's say, um, in the night. So I think it's led us to, as humans, to think of fate, to think of, to wonder and ask ourselves who we are, why are we here, where do we come from? Like so many philosophical questions um, that make us think of ourselves in perspective when we realize how small we are. Especially today, we know actually how small we are in such a vast uh, universe. So I think, in personally, I think I've been I've been fascinated by the stars since I was very little. By by those stars, like by the cosmos and by the space and the planets, um, and that's one side of the issue. Then there is a more poetic side, I would say, like what those stars make me think of, and that's why I can write about them. Um, and in the first poem I read, um, I think the stars are more like a symbol, as I said, um, and it's more related to what's within, as Diti said, to how you can look inside yourself and find that sort of it's not really like a light, but more I would say like a treasure you need to find and keep safe within you. That I think that's what I was trying to say before. Like it's important to let go what we lose, but at the same time, it's important to keep a part of it, to keep a part of it that keeps us um, longing for a future, longing for um, looking for that light that leads our way towards something else, to make us wish. You know, we have this expression to wish on a star. Um, we tend to make wishes on shooting stars, for example. So it's sort of like a magical thing, very common, at least in Western culture, um, to think about that. So I think the stars, the outside stars, as DT said, that's why I say I agree with you, DT, make us think of the stars we grow in that inner garden we have. So it's important to grow that garden, I think, to to make that garden a garden that we can take care of, that it's our own. But I I would say, and this is what I think, self-reliance is related to others as well. I think we need to count on others, and to be self-reliant, we need to receive from others that confidence. Like when we grow up, like from when we're kids and we interact with others, people who take care of us, for example, it's important to feel confident that we can rely on them, and therefore we can also rely on ourselves. So I think, for example, to be able to ask for help um, means being self-reliant as well, not like being just someone isolated from everyone else, but to be able to share and um, and live together somehow.
Okay, so for DT, interpretations of stars is much more internalizing within yourself, and for Melissa, it is an external source which you later internalize within yourself. I think that was pretty much understood from Melissa's explanation. So, coming to my second question, that how does being self-reliant give you the sense of dependency over yourself and your decisions? Diti, first, how does it gives you that sense of dependency over yourself and your decisions, being self-reliant?
I think that following following this light that you grow in yourself, that you bring in, and then following it, and sometimes it's saying it, verbalizing the thing that you want, the thing that you wish for. um, this is already part of the way. This is already the beginning of the way. And for me, being able to realize and to verbalize what I wish for um, gives me already the direction and the way. It already leads me. And I don't know, it's like a magic that when you have something in yourself that you know that is important for you in a certain moment, and you decide that, yeah, this is what I want, like the energy for the fulfillment of this wish is gathered by itself. I can't explain it. It's really something that when you decide to go out and to do something, the moment you have it, you make it clear to yourself, it's already done in a way. It's
It's more of self introspection, I guess, Diti.
it's yeah, the way you introspect the vision that you have, yeah, it
Exactly.
it already leads you to carry out and to proceed with the next step. um yeah, I think, I took your questions very, very seriously. I thought, what happened with my life? How did I get to where I get? And what took me this way? And I listened to you, Melissa, very, very seriously, very deeply. I really paid attention to everything you said, and I understand completely um, the way you look at things. But I think within age, when the time comes, you realize it's all you. It's all what you do with your own wishes, with your own thoughts, with your own dreams, with your stars. If you let some stars in yourself, then they shine. Then they bring the day. They already do it. Maybe it sounds maybe it sounds mystical. It's not mystical. It's not completely not mystic. It's really gathering yourself with it's nothing like, it's not forceful. You don't have to put power in it. You don't need to force yourself to do it. It's like
It's spontaneous.
it's being done. It's calling you, and you just follow it. But you need to realize it. And it's like, it's always in your hands. It's always in your hands. So in the next questions, maybe I will talk also of how I get to this way of knowing that it's me walking this way, and I curve the way while the way is already curved. It's both at the same time.
So nice and precise, Diti. It was excellent. And
Thank you.
coming to Melissa now, like same thing. Like, how does being self-reliant, it gives you that sense of dependency over yourself and your decisions as well. If you can share any instance, Melissa.
Okay. Yes, I was listening to DT, and I think there's no such difference really. I mean, I think we're thinking more or less of the same. Um, I would say what I would like to highlight is the fact that even though it's like a paradox, because we are alone, we're actually alone. It's like we're all islands that live together. somehow. But at the same time, we are connected. So it's like we're cells. We're cells of a pure body, right? So that can sound a bit mystical as well, right? Because when we think of ourselves sometimes isolated from the rest, it might feel at times it might feel like it makes no sense. And when you can see yourself in perspective into the bigger picture, maybe it can start to make sense in a different way, because you need to think of yourself in a context. You need to think of yourself in a time, in a place, and you're surrounded by others, because since we're human, we don't survive, I mean, out of some sort of society or human connection. It's like from scratch we come to the world and we are dependent on others to survive. There's no other way. But I think, and that's where I agree with DT. I think we get these cards. Each of us get this bunch of cards. They're all different. Some might get better cards. Some might get uh, not such good cards. But we need to play those cards. It's like that's what we have. We might just join the game and get some better card in the way. We might get rid of a card we don't like or we cannot really use. But that's what we have, and we need to learn how to play the game with those cards and how to make something out of it. So that's a challenge for all of us. I think um anything can happen, like we all live different lives and we all face different situations, hardships in life. So I think if we can find a way to make something out of that, something better, something that can become a resource for us to grow and for us to find our own path, or to to make our own path. As you said, DT, it's like this phrase we have. um Caminante no hay camino, se hace camino al andar, which means you're walking and there's no way, because you write your own way, you make your own way as you're walking, but you don't really know. I mean, you have an idea, like, I want this, I want to go there, but you don't really know if you're actually getting there, because when you're on the way, when you're on the road, many things happen, and that makes you sometimes change your way. You never know if that's where you were supposed to go. That's when we get mystical, because we can think about fate. It's like, okay, I turned here. Was I supposed to turn here? Was it just by chance, or was I supposed to really go there? So we have to live with that uncertainty. We don't really know until we're there, and we can ask ourselves if we are where we want to be. And if we don't, we can change it. And that's a good thing about it. And that's where I agree with DT. We are the owners of our own destiny. So even though we might have better cards or not such good cards, these are our cards. So it's our decision what to do with our lives. That's what I would say.
Okay. So,
May I just refer
sure.
with one thing,
Please,
small
please,
thing,
Diti, please go ahead.
that by saying to go by saying that I go out to the way, um, I don't see the aim of reaching the end of the way. So it's not something that I have the goal, and then I reach the goal or I don't reach the goal. Everything that happens is the way. Everything that happens on the way is part of the way. This is the way. But I know the direction. And if the way leads me to another direction, great. That's the way. That's the new way. That's the way I go. It's all not about reaching the stars, but about um, um, contemplating and achieving them from inside. So it's just a little mark on to put on the way, that it's or everything that happens on the way is part of the way. Is
Yeah, I would say you're following your star, like your inner star, because actually, as you say, and I totally agree with that. The goal is to walk. The goal is to
is
be
the way.
on the way, to
Yes.
keep on moving, because as long as there is life, you
Yes, I
can
guess Melissa says that we have to do our part. We have to play our role, and the way is there, we will reach the goal. Is it so, Melissa? That is what you meant, that we have to
I
do
think
our.
the goal is just an excuse, like it's like a name we have, but the the thing is to keep on moving towards something, to keep on desiring and to move towards life. As long as there's life, there will be a goal. So it doesn't really matter what it is. It can change. We change.
Okay, like Melissa was mentioning about being alone, and self isolation. You know, so there is a famous quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson that it is easy in the world to live after the world's opinion. It is easy in solitude to live after our own. But the great man is he who, in the midst of crowd, keeps with perfect sweetness the independence of solitude. So, we were talking about self reliance and resourcefulness. And coming to this, that do you think solitude can help one become self reliant and resourceful? DT?
Well, yes, I really think so. I remember myself, I was, I think, maybe 40 years old, and I arrived to a very beautiful place in Scotland, and I was alone. I was without any, just me, and I watched that beautiful view, and I thought to myself, what a pity, what a shame that I'm alone, and there's no one with me to share this beauty. And what happened right after that is that I was really upset about myself, that I couldn't enjoy the beauty by myself, and it could have been enough just to look at it. I needed the second person to share this beauty, and I felt very bad about it, and I told myself that I have to work on it. This is something that I need to work on. I have to learn how to enjoy things by myself, and you know to be happy with what I get, with what I have, with what I see, and not to feel I like this feeling of I miss someone to join me. I didn't want to have this feeling, and I really worked on it. And I went to travel, to journeys far away, lots of them in India, as I think I wrote you, and alone. And I learned how to do it. And yes, I have to tell you, it's if you don't have this ability to get things for yourself, the beauty, the 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 communication with people, it's part of it. It's completely, I'm not talking about being completely isolated. On the other hand, like, I'm sorry, on the contrary, when you are alone, it's like a one hand waiting for a second hand. And it's very easy to communicate with people when you are alone. And when you go with someone, you're already with someone. And then you don't have so many interactions with the world. And when you are alone, and this feeling of fulfillment, of sometimes I needed to, to teach myself, look where you are, look what you're doing. And I was completely alone. I was very happy. And I am very happy when I'm alone. I am, I think I worked on it. I had to work on it. It was not simple. I had to learn how to do it. But this is where you find, the sea. Then you get to the sea, which is in yourself. And the stars, of course.
It was so kind of, you get deep into it. So coming to Melissa, same question, like, do you think that solitude can help someone become, or anyone become, self-reliant and resourceful at the same time?
Yes, I think so. It's so funny because I was hearing DT, and this situation came back to me when you were in Scotland, I was in Ireland, um, in Killarney, and I remember I'm the kind of person who actually likes to be alone. I really enjoy myself being alone. I also like to be like sharing with others. It's not like I'm not a social person, but I need my own space. Um, and I'm more introspective, and I like to think and contemplate, and I like to travel by myself a lot, and I totally agree with what you just said about how that helps you interact with people more than if you are with someone else when you travel. And I do it a lot, and I have lots of friends that I've met on journeys. So when I was in this forest in Killarney, and it was so beautiful and magical. It felt like the fairies were about to come out of the woods, if you know what I mean. And I was so happy at that moment. I felt so fulfilled by what I was experiencing, feeling alone in the woods. And I had that sudden feeling of sadness, and the thought, I wish my family could see this. I wish they could enjoy this as well. I'm so lucky I get to be here. And that made me feel sad, as DT was saying. I felt identified with what you just said. And it doesn't mean that I wasn't enjoying myself. It's just that I was enjoying it so much, and it was so beautiful that it made me sad. But that's on me. That's on me. That's what I feel sometimes about beauty. It's just overwhelming. And I think when you are alone, you you need to be self-reliant, and you find resources anywhere. And I think you are alone, but you are not. I think to think that humans can actually be alone is a fantasy. I mean, I think we are not alone, because there is always another inside of us, like, even if it's imaginary, even if it's an inner voice, and we need to talk to ourselves. And yesterday I was talking to my mother about these questions, thinking about this, and it was funny because she mentioned the film Castaway with Tom Hanks, and reminded me of, you see, this man was alone in the island. He had to learn how to survive on his own, and everything he could do. And then I remembered, and I told her, yes, he he had to be his own dentist. I mean, how crazy is that? But at the same time, he had to rely on this ball, Wilson. He was talking to a ball. So that's the other. That's
Okay.
a way he found not to be alone, even though he
So
was.
one thing is clear, Melissa, that solitude helps you to be powerful from within. It helps you. It empowers you. Solitude. I get we are just running out of time. I will just finish this session with. I'll just ask you in very short that if you can share some of your valuable insights or suggestions for young aspiring poets like us, for them to become successful, self-reliant and resourceful. Diti and Melissa, very short.
Yeah, I'm meditating. I do a lot of meditation, and it really helps me to contemplate and to get deeper into the things that I want to carry out.
Okay. Melissa,
I
in
don't have
short,
I
just
don't have any
say
form.
whatever you
I
feel
don't,
like.
yeah, I don't have any formulas. I think each of us need to find.
You are a young poet yourself, Melissa, so if you have any suggestions for,
Yeah, I don't really feel like I can give someone advice on
no, you
what to
can
do.
share whatever you feel.
I can say what helps me. I What helps me is connecting with things that make me happy or make me feel good. I think meditation is a great thing, um, to shut the world a little bit and focus on what you're really feeling, how you're really feeling right now, and
Or
connect.
listen to the word.
Yeah,
Listen to the
that too. But sometimes it's so loud that you're not really listening. It's just a bunch of noise. So I think if you can really connect with others or with yourself, it's it's the same, but uh, in a in an opposite way, if you know what I mean. So I think connecting to something, whatever it is, if it's music, if it's a sport, if it's meditation, if it's talking to someone else, but really connecting, like being there. That would be my
Okay, so connection, meditation, self introspection, communication. So we have so many we have got.
Well,
Uh,
maybe we have few more minutes. I will share
yes,
another
please, Diti, please,
insight
yes.
that I learned from Amos Oz, and a very important author, Israeli author. He said that when you write, there are three components that brings into writing, and the first is the trauma. There's a sort of the trauma. Each one of us had a trauma when we were born into this world. So it's not very hard to find a trauma in our life. Then a grandma, a symbolic grandma, somebody who loved you, somebody who took you seriously and believed in you, and curdled you and gave you his word for the future. And the third thing is the balcony. And this is the interesting thing, and that's why I'm saying it, because Melissa was standing both on those. Be in the balcony is look inside, be inside, and be outside at the same time,
exactly.
and being able to look uh, at things from outside, but being able also to be inside completely at the same time. So balcony is a very good is what I wanted to reach to, just to say that you can look outside, you can look inside, you can look, to both sides, but you can also be everywhere.
So awareness, we have to be in the state of awareness. Okay, so it was a very, very, insightful discussion today. Where can you find the stars? Representing self-reliance and resourcefulness. I think of self-reliance we will be, but today's discussion really was backed by so much of resources, and it was really, really wonderful. And discussing all the various facets on where can you find the stars. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Diti, for
Thank you.
coming, joining with us, and sharing your wisdom. It was a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank
So
you.
we are also calling for submissions of poems on the same theme. Where can you find the stars? Registrations are also open for the writing program season 4. For further details, please visit www.tellmeyourstory.biz. Thank you, everyone. Good night and have a good day, Diti and Melissa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
I
Thank
want to
you.
thank
Bye
you and
bye.
to my friend
Thank you so
Alejandra.
much.